get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride. Ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Back with us today is agricultural meteorologist Greg Soulje. Welcome, Greg. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy Friday to you and one and all out there on a little bit of everything for everyone kind of weather day across the plains and Corn Belt. A little bit of welcome rain coming in as well, and we'll kind of lay it all out for you here in the shorter term. And of course, if folks wanting the longer range stuff, they can check us out on our live stream that we did a couple of days ago, and this week in agribusiness, and we'll get it all laid out here for end of the week Friday.
Very good. And we do want to mention that today's weather is sponsored by Strauss. Strauss is one of the trusted names in workwear. It's family owned since 1948 and makes gear that's tough, functional, and built to perform. You can visit Strauss.com for more information. You also might notice scrolling down at the bottom, we have a special code for you. So you can go online, enter that code, and get 10% off. So, Greg, let's get into the weather here. There are your slides, and go ahead.
All right, off to the races we go here on a finally Friday that continues with a very mild, downright warm, and in some areas of the eastern Corn Belt for a September 19th hot weather with readings maybe even closing in on the 90-degree mark as far north as Champaign and Danville and Indianapolis and Point Southward this afternoon. But like we have been talking about here on these get-togethers and on TV and on radio, would be surprised that some of those corn and soybean fields begin to take a hit out there with regard to quality. Got the numbers as that relates to corn as of the 14th of September, and about 15% of the corn crop rated poor and very poor. That's really centered on central and southern Illinois, especially southern and eastern Ohio. There are a couple of areas that are in extreme drought mode, far southern Illinois and east central sections of Ohio. National average is at about 9%. And if I read here quickly, yesterday, we had some of the soybean numbers that were generally ranging at about 13 to 18% poor and very poor in Illinois, parts of Ohio. National average was at about 10 or 11%. So the worst of the late season varieties continue to be across the worst drought areas of the Corn Belt at the current time. But there's a little optimism, a little deviation here in the shorter and medium range. And we'll talk about it as well in this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. Don't want to hear any complaints about rain coming through. It will not be enough to greatly, if not really, idle our harvest operations or moisture reduction or dry down or what have you, because whatever rain does come through in the next 5 to 7 days in those driest reaches of the eastern and southern Corn Belt, that's going to be it for a few more weeks to come as we move into a very warm and dry, largely dry month of October. So hang in there. No need to worry. No need to push it. So shower activity through the upper Midwest. The warmth continues on there. That's the story across the Corn Belt. Cool, cloudy, showery weather across the Dakotas. There are a wide swath of 1 to better than 2-inch rainfall totals the past 3 or 4 days across the Dakotas, southward in through Nebraska. Skies beginning to break across parts of the Panhandle. A couple of showers still east of there, east of the Missouri River. Again, those rains have been of great benefit for up and coming winter wheat planting operations. And by the 14th of September, 11% of the U.S. intended acreage had been planted, a little bit behind the 5-year average. Well ahead of the game is Washington State and parts of Montana, if you want to include those folks in the equation. But then again, they've got like 93% topsoil moisture, short and very short. So there's issues out there, the good, the bad, the ugly, having to do with shortages of soil moisture, and a couple of showers and thunderstorms into parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Winter wheat planting operations continue to move along nicely there, and they are in relatively good shape with regard to drought-related issues. We'll take a look at the drought monitor from Thursday in just a second. Anyway, on to the southern states. Very warm, dry weather, really situated across the Mid-South, although there are a couple of showers and thunderstorms from the Missouri Boot Hill country on southward into the northern end of the Delta. Temperatures are expected to be in the low to mid 90s. That's hot and high and above average for the time of year in that particular part of the country. And still eastern areas, the Carolinas, the Outer Banks, down through Georgia and Florida. With time, we're going to get back into shower activity as these tropical systems are beginning to get a little going, more ramped up. Nothing to concern yourself about, but a couple of systems in the Atlantic, they will have a bearing on how the upper air wind pattern plays out. And hence the thinking now we'll have a little rain in parts of the eastern Corn Belt, followed by another extended warm spell of weather. But again, we'll talk about that later on here and on This Week in Agribusiness. Meanwhile, raining in San Diego and Los Angeles. You get those rain systems in wintertime and beginning early to mid-autumn in the reaches of the southwestern part of the country. It's been raining because of, I believe, what was former tropical storm / Hurricane Mario throwing its tropical remnant moisture northward, just like we have systems that come ashore into the southeastern states once in a rare while, actually when we're still in sense of an El Nino upper air pattern. I don't want to hear anybody tell me anything different because it sure looks, walks, talks, and behaves as the same. But some rain into central and southern sections of California, even flash flood watches up in effect around the Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley, and the foothills of the Sierra. Meanwhile, it is drought and drought-related issues, category D3 or D4 out of the 5 scale. So it's pretty extreme and exceptional into parts of Washington state, about 18 to 22% of that state in some of the worst drought areas. So it would be nice and welcome to get some of those organized late fall, or at least even end sense of fall rain and Pacific moisture in that part of the country as we move forward here in the weeks and days to come. Where you can see little, if any, organized moisture across the northwest, the southwestern reaches of the country. Some of those livestock areas, got to keep an eye on flash flood potential. New Mexico, Arizona, valleys of California, a couple of showers and thunderstorms scattered across the southeastern states. Most of the organized rains are really the Red River Valley of the north on eastward in through areas of Minnesota. But that weather system is going to get, we say, kind of help to get carve out, as we call it, the weather business, fancy term for getting a U-shaped configuration or a trough or instability or low pressure up or off to get going. And these systems are going to get kind of blockaded from anything moving east of the Appalachians because of the stuff in the Atlantic. There is a domino effect from right to left and how the weather behaves sometimes when the tropics get busy in the Atlantic basin. By tonight, the shower activity into parts of Wisconsin and still going on into parts of Minnesota, kind of scattered hit miss stuff into Illinois. And points on southward, still some scattered activity across the southwestern states, even through tomorrow morning, with a little nodules, somewhat better coverage rains in the eastern Kansas. Those will be shifting into Missouri. Folks who are going to check out the Illinois and Indiana game, I think it's the last time both teams played, and they were both ranked, if I have the stats right from my radio pal in Champaign, both somewhere in a rated category, was 1951. So that's a big ball game down there, Indiana and Illinois. I believe that is an NBC Peacock game. So it is a national game, and that game is sold out from what we've heard down there. So whether there may be a shower around low 80s and light wind and nothing to really greatly impact that ball game down there tomorrow evening, you can see the shower activity scattered. At least it's a start over these dry grounds of the Midwest. Down in through Missouri, best coverage is up through sections of Wisconsin and Michigan. By Sunday morning, another little wave as an upper air system begins to form up into Kansas. I think that will be probably our best coverages to come through Missouri, Illinois, Indiana between Sunday and the first day of autumn on Monday. Models are a little bit wonky on some of the totals. I think they're going to be struggling how this lays out, but probably quarter to 3/4, some outlier inch and a quarter can't be ruled out. That'll be spread over about 3 to 4 days in those areas of the central and southern Corn Belt. So it's a start, enough to settle the dust, not enough to make probably even a categorical improvement to dryness and drought. And once this thing takes probably mid to late next week to move out, another warm ridge of high pressure over the plains moves on in. So this is it for the next few weeks with regard to rainfall. And yes, it's that juggling act of harvest, crop maturation, moisture back in the ground. So we're kind of doing 2 and 3 different things at the same time here, but no need to rush and panic or worry about a rain delayed harvest season. This too shall pass, as we say, as in the wet weather. The next 48 hours, you can see most of the organized rains, Minnesota, Wisconsin, breaking out eastern Kansas, the Ozarks, that'll be spreading north and east, a pretty good swath of rain and moisture with those tropical systems. I believe it is Gabriel and one on its heels over the south central Atlantic. It's probably going to increase some of those rains off the Outer Banks. And the rains across the southwestern states continue on into the Sierra Range too. No real severe weather. These will be more or less your just garden varieties guard rate outbreaks of shower activity, a rumble of thunder. There's no widespread severe weather. We're kind of moving out of that time of the year across the heartland. There's Gabriel on the satellite picture. Not too impressive this morning. And another little investigatory system coming off the African coast. That is it. Gabriel's going to be running into wind shear again. Frontal boundary offshore the Outer Banks. So again, most likely going to get absorbed with this low through the southeastern plains into the mid-south and southeastern states, and a wetter pattern evolving in the next week to 10 days in that part of the country. Again, we'll have it on the 4-week forecast on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. There's a different perspective. Gabriel just sitting there. There's the cone of uncertainty, the yellow area off the African coast. So kind of following and right in behind Gabriel. And typically the rule of thumb is if you have that kind of proximity, that distance, that storm track one after another, you've already stirred up ocean waters. They're trying to recover. So sometimes that secondary and third system won't have the bang, if you will, that it would likely have if it were to encounter just a quiet atmosphere, quiet ocean current in the south central Atlantic. There's the Pacific basin. We have, again, Mario offshore, and there's some sign of the actual leftover circulation, not tropical in nature, but actually may work into the Bay Area next week. There are 2 more features down along Mexico and the southern end of Baja, and they're tracked to the northwest. While they track northwest, the moisture turns counterclockwise, spreading northward out of Old Mexico, northward into the Baja region, Four Corners area. And so that setup continues on until further notice. Here's the drought monitor from Thursday, and egads, what a worsening has gone on. Ozarks, Missouri Boot Hill, that area of red is extreme drought. That's D4 out of 5. You can see pockets through West Virginia, eastern Ohio, teleconnected into the northeast in New England, ongoing across the divide and points on westward. Some erosion into parts of Nebraska and the Dakotas, but boy, it is a big deal in that northern Delta, mid-south, lower Mississippi Valley locale, and north and eastward across the Corn Belt. Here's a little more, well, at least here's the, let's backtrack here. This is the outlook that the feds put out, and no endorsement, but it matches exactly what we've been talking about, and we continue to talk about and talked about on our live stream. And matter of fact, we'll have, if you missed the live stream, we do have a little quick, fast moving recap on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness, both the fall outlook and the winter outlook. It's sort of at rapid pace, the only time we had allowed to do it, but it will be there. Nonetheless, and it's no change, nothing different than that we talked about here on the live stream back on Wednesday. So dryness and drought-related issues either holding sway or increasing or worsening, probably redeveloping Oklahoma, Texas, worsening across the southern and eastern Corn Belt. Some indication of the Pacific Northwest and Big Sky Country, and that's reflected in our 4-week forecast as well, that we'll see some improvement out in that particular part of the country in the next 60 to 90 days. This is a quarterly seasonal outlook from the folks over the National Weather Service. Here is the close-up picture of the Midwest. You can see out there in eastern Ohio, around the Defiance, Napoleon area. That is the Maumee Valley of northwest Ohio, big ag area out there in northeast Indiana, and obviously around Champaign, Piatt counties, south towards East St. Louis, and then back south of there into the Ozarks, and worsening in some areas through Michigan as well that have taken a hit over the past week to 10 days. So storminess, if you want to call it that, it's not a big deal. But it's going to slowly evolve with time, and it takes a little more moisture. It takes a little while to get some of this Gulf moisture to work on it. But there's going to be some rains in the plains, 1 to 2, maybe some 3 inches in pockets. I think these numbers are going to end up being disappointing, but at least it is something in the drier reaches of the southeastern plains and Midwest. Again, those rains will be much lighter, scattered as they make their way through the eastern Corn Belt each and every day through much of next week. Some degree, some measure, some talk of rainfall, a lot of dry hours each day. You could actually still be out there doing some harvesting good corn or cutting the beans, even in between these shower outbreaks across the eastern and southern Corn Belt next week. The rains continue on for California, but winding down, they'll shift into the southwestern states and kind of resume their normal monsoon setup out there. There is the next 7 days, a little overdone, a little rambunctious on the models, but the general right idea. One of the better rains we've seen in weeks over parts of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, as well as Ohio. Monday through Wednesday next week, you can see that weather system. There's one coming across the plains, and it kind of cuts off or gets cut off. That low just sits there, meanders over Wednesday and Thursday. Friday begins to get lifting out to the north and northeast come next Friday and Saturday as kind of the jet stream winds pick it up and move it along. So, yeah, there's some showery weather in the forecast, and there's no need to worry and panic about I got to get harvest done or what have you. This is going to move on through very quickly, and there's nothing but warm, dry, high-pressure ridging following in for the Corn Belt locales after that weather system for next week. And there's a surface profile. If we already had a copious amount of moisture and a pretty good temperature contrast in that low between Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then we light up the radars, but we don't. The air is even warmer back west and northwest of that weather system over the plains, the middle and late portions of next week. So temperatures, nice, still in a midsummer mode, pardon me, in the Eastern Corn Belt, a little more typical normal across the plains. That's the forecast highs today. By early next week, Monday, Tuesday, if you will, still in the 70s and 80s, still running at about 5, almost 10 degrees above average from the foothills of the Rockies on eastward. And we get a little cooling across the middle part of the country next Thursday and Friday, but those temperatures that are largely upper 60s and 70s are still normal for early, the first week of October. And you can see some warmth over the Dakotas, Big Sky Country, Southern Canadian Prairie. That'll be building south and eastward for probably late in the first week of October, and the second week of October, again, will reflect that on This Week in Agribusiness. Here's the next 2 weeks. The jet stream remaining well to the north, weak winds up aloft as you go through the plains and Corn Belt locales and points on southward. That means weather systems are fast, they're benign, they don't have any moisture to work with, they zip right along. End of story there. Temperatures the next couple of weeks, pretty much at or above average. No reason to differ in that thinking whatsoever. Folks, the Weather Service, National Weather Service, did put out their October outlook and a 90-day outlook. So October, top left, top right, temp precip, kind of what we're thinking, kind of in line what we're thinking, with more of a broader based, drier scenario and maybe a little warmer based scenario, but the general right idea if you're going to rip and read a model. And the next 90 days, over a good 2/3 of the country, warmer than average, and generally speaking, a drier than average scenario. We get towards Thanksgiving and into December, and we talked about that on Wednesday. Things get a little more active, and it's probably a pretty quick and rapid cold air dump over the holidays. It may go from almost a late summer, early to mid-autumn feel to a more or less dead of winter feel in a short span of time, and that's absolutely nothing that livestock managers and those folks in that kind of operation want to deal with. It's a tough, rapid change instead of that general hardening process that you deal with. The old autumnal equinox, let it in at 1:19 Monday afternoon, Central Time Zone. Anything but a real fall feel. And the next live stream comes up next month, the 15th, Wednesday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll update what's left of autumn, a little more in-depth official look at the wintertime season from our perspective. And that's everything from the weather office on a Friday. So we've got it coming from all the different directions here in our little get-togethers here on TV as well. And you have a nice weekend, Sarah.
Yeah, you too, Greg. Thank you for the update. And thank you all for tuning in.